morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey, hang on here a second, would you guys? Let's see. Okay, it looks as though we're not on Facebook. Just got a notice and it said that Facebook is having trouble. So we are not on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn and we are on YouTube. But that's okay. We will have a replay so people can be in on that. So, all right, good morning, everyone.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Today we have a very sensitive subject, and it is about, does having a dog make suicide less likely? Now, for those of you that have ever known anyone who's committed suicide or contemplated suicide, it's a very, very serious issue, and there's a lot around it. So we're not saying that a dog is the answer, but a dog may be a help and a support for this delicate issue. And I wanted to share personally that when we first started this show, there was a woman who was one of our fans who sent me a personal message saying that she was going to commit suicide, but she didn't know what to do with her dog. So I reached out to her, I talked to her on the phone, helped her with understanding that the dog she had that was right there was a gift that could help her through this difficult time. Helped her to understand that the dog was there to give her comfort, to help her through depression. And she started to notice that her dog was feeling her emotions, feeling her depression, her down. So he was spending more time with her and wanting to cuddle. She didn't recognize that. When she did finally realize that, she started to, the oxytocin that comes in out of your body when you feel when you pet a dog and you can feel that unconditional love, she started to connect, and it started to help her ease the emotional pain she had about not feeling like she belonged in this world, and she wanted to go to a different area of, in her life that would go beyond. So once she started to connect, she kept talking to me and crying and saying, I went from not loving my dog at all to loving him, or yeah, loving him so much that I now don't want to take my own life. I don't want to take my own life. What I really want to do is help others through the same thing that I went through. So kudos to you. I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to have people going to her, but kudos to you. You know who you are. And I hope you're doing very, very, very well. Okay, so let's begin with the show. There's there are some new research suggests that we can now add an additional life-saving ability to the resume of dogs, namely that possibly that a dog may lower the likelihood of suicide. For those of you that know Mickey Rourke, he was in 9.5 weeks and he was in The Wrestler. He won an Academy Award, but when he went up to get his award, he didn't thank God, his family, his friends, the directors, none of them. He thanked his dogs because he said that it was them that helped him through. He had a history of depression, a history of suicidal tendencies. He was into drugs and things like that, but he came through it, and he absolutely believed. Now here's a picture of Mickey too. This was one that they did of him. When that was his dog. She was a chow mix, I guess. So
Looks like Shiba Inu.
okay, yeah. So the real truth is that now suicidal behavior, it's often the result of feelings of not belonging, being a burden to others, and a sense of hopelessness. It has been shown that a dog can reduce depression and loneliness, and with these suicidal tendencies. Now, whether a dog is likely to lessen a owner's likelihood of suicide really depends on the strength and the nature of the relationship. That's what we're going to talk about today. The relationship that you have with your dog could be enhanced tremendously if you take the time to learn about them and understand the dog. The dog has taken the time to learn about you. So now it's time for you. So with that, we want to talk about, Roman wanted to talk about the vets and the vet techs and the ACOs and the animal workers, welfare workers that get involved, and where they have a big problem because they are the ones that are on the front line and they are the ones that hear all the sob stories. They're the ones that hear, and there's a lot of suicides amongst them. So go ahead, Roman. You got the floor.
Well, um, being in rescue for several years, not I'm not a rescue, but I work with rescues, and I work with animal shelters. I work with rescues. I work with people, and I see one very common factor is the working fatigue. And I remember having a conversation with people in New York who work with Manhattan Animal Shelter. They have the highest suicide rate between shelters in New York. And I was like, why would this relate it to that? I mean, you go there to help dogs. Why would you commit homicide? I went there once. And it's really frustrating being there, working with dogs and start connecting with the dog because you care for the dog because all these volunteers come in and the next day that dog is gone.
Yeah,
And you know that dog could be adopted and there is
right.
nobody there to support that dog. So this is a lot of frustration and then it just adds up and the next dog and the next dog and the next dog. And if we look to people um, who are in rescue or work with rescues, are people who for some reason it's not a stamp, it's just a conversation here, that most likely have a weird experience with people. They say, I rather deal with dogs than with people. So
Yeah,
there are people who work with dogs who, for some reason, had issues with interacting with people,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so they're already working in isolation. And
Yeah.
we see that many people in rescue are not as good in human communication as they are with dogs, right? And it kind of we have to see that it's kind of a factor that makes that thing even worse. You don't communicate with others, you don't talk to others, you abandon others or you are abandoned by others, and then the only safe haven you have are the dogs. And speaking of safe haven, there is a correlationship between secure attachment as a protective factor. Insecure attachment orientation appear to be vulnerable factors and compromising the individual's capacity to cope with relationship issues, including increasing the suicide risk.
uh-huh.
And if we see at numbers, the same with dogs, people and dogs, are only 60% of the US population is secure attached to someone,
Hmm.
which means 30% of the population in US is insecure attached. So these 30% are the highest risk of suicidal. But dogs have also insecure attachments. 30% of the dogs. 60% have secure attachment with their dog caregivers and 30% don't. So we see there is a correlation. And those people who work with rescues are dealing with those dogs who have insecure attachment relationships, and those people who work in rescue themselves have insecure attachment relationships. So we see how that isolates itself.
Hmm.
And that's
Right.
why the main goal that I have through my behavior healing process is the first thing you do having a dog, build a secure attachment relationship that you never had yourself. Now you have
Right.
an opportunity to start building one and see how it feels like and start creating a bond. So the 30% basically absorb themselves into 100% secure attachment relationship with someone. If not with
Right.
a person,
Right.
at least with a dog.
That's a good point. I want to bring up that, the dog also feels, or most dogs feel, that if you don't care about them and they don't matter to you, they go into depression. And I've heard that some dogs might even have suicidal tendencies too. So
Um,
there's emotions that enter into that. So there's both sides of the spectrum on this.
we have to see that dogs don't have suicidal thoughts. They just fall into helplessness
Right.
and
Yeah.
in kind
Right.
of a deep grief of depression, which means I don't like to eat. And I don't like to eat. I
Hmm.
don't see value in staying here. And the dog stops eating. He gets unhealthy, so unhealthy that he actually will die. So is it a
Hmm.
suicide? I wouldn't put it there. They don't have they don't have that choice. Okay, but they fall in depression and they can shut down. And I've seen
Right.
dogs shut down, and we see all
Right.
these pictures, and we see like, oh my God, poor dog. We don't see the connection to the whole picture here.
So let's look at the connection. There are some connections here. What happens here now, Roman, in this chart?
Well, what we see here is the arousal. We see the positive valence. We see low arousal and negative valence. So we see how all these things are distributed in relationship to how education and how support is distributed throughout these quadrants, let's call it. Okay, so sharing interactions with the dog, educational impact, okay, play relationships, okay, looking after a dog, all these things, which is the yellow part, are yellow. It's happy, joyful, fun, excited, active. So by doing those things, you're gonna stay safe. Okay. You also share with the dogs with interactions, looking after the dog, educational impacts that have dealing with dogs, right? And social interactions are also important. You take a dog out, you find a person to talk to. There's no way you walk with a dog and somebody will talk about it. I've,
Right.
I've noticed I was in Home Depot. There was an older person walking with his dog in Home Depot, and he did not shop in the Home Depot. He was just walking his dog. So I was like curious to see what he's up to because I had a weird feeling. So what he did social engagement using his dog as a front line. So he will look for people, and his dog was well behaved. He wasn't in training. So what he wanted is to talk to people. So people would says, "Oh, what a cute dog," and he started telling stories, and I was like, "That's so interesting." So that dog is the conveyor to social interactions that he
Yes,
would
right.
not do it himself.
Mhm.
I was going to say that isn't that the case when you think about companion dogs, especially for vets? The vet will look at a friend, anything. So I really agree with you on that one, Roman.
And so
Okay.
that's an important
Okay.
factor.
Yeah. Speaking of vets, you put this up too about vets. University study released this spring compared veterans coping with PTSD who have a service dog with those who didn't. Results showed that veterans with the service dog scored higher on a variety of mental health and emotional well being metrics, including lessened symptoms of PTSD and depression. Interaction with dogs has been shown to boost oxytocin, relieve stress, and stimulate nurturing responses. Dogs are also a great excuse to get out of the house.
Right? So people who don't have dogs and they need dogs, they don't have money. Each dog for training costs $20,000. But there are so many dogs out there in the shelters who are basically ready to go with minimum effort of training because they are already those dogs who we train for, but they are ready. They are those healers, let's call them, and they have these healing abilities and comfort abilities that some other dogs are trained to do that, but these dogs naturally have that. So being able to go to the shelter and pick those good guys out and do a little bit of an effort and engage those people to work with their dogs, that's a big thing.
Right. Hey, Ron, thank you. Thank you. We know that the show is not started. Facebook is having glitches this morning, so show's not running there, but it'll be up on a replay. So let's go into uh, this Stanley Cohen, which I'm going to add here. Stanley Cohen, if those of you who don't know him, he's a friend on LinkedIn. He has written a number of books about dogs. He's a psychiatrist. He's really gotten this. I'm going to put the link to this in the description so that you can go and look. Uh, he has what he calls is the interpersonal theory of suicide. And he shows that, let me take this off here. He has shown that suicide has been shown to be predicted by a number of factors, including depression and feelings of loneliness. The first thing is feeling that you do not belong. Now, you don't have to, just because you don't feel that you don't belong doesn't mean that you could be suicidal. What he's saying is that the combination of all three of these would indicate possible tendencies towards wanting to commit suicide. So the first one is the feeling that you don't belong, the idea that you're a burden to others. How many of us feel that, and we all have at one time or another, oh, they don't care about me. They're just using me. I don't really belong. I don't fit in, or the sense of hopelessness that these conditions will never change. If you've ever been hopeless, where things have been taken from you, or you just can't cope, and the depression is overwhelming, and you just can't get out of it, it only takes 30 seconds to take that pill, to pull that trigger, to whatever. And what it's a scary thing, because if you don't do it, then in retrospect, you think, oh my God, I could have killed myself because of that instant thinking that you had, that stinking thinking for for that split second. So where a dog comes in is to help you to prevent from even getting to that state. Uh,
I have I have
yes,
the misfortune of knowing a number of people who killed themselves in the past 40 years, and one common denominator there is the sense of failure, the sense of useful, the how you say that, the not having any useful purpose, of not having any purpose, and having no tie with people around them. And this is a, or another case was the person having too much difficulty and cannot imagine that she can overcome that difficulty. The difficulty pass. Everybody should know that. I found a law of nature, quote unquote, in our life. I never came across any challenge greater than what we can face. So if
right,
people can realize that there's no challenge in life greater than what we can face. If it was not the case, everybody would kill themselves, because the challenge of life are call that whatever you want, destiny, karma, whatever, bad luck. You're strong enough to face it. Otherwise, it will not come in your face. The other factor I notice is they have no companion or no sense of companionship, or they have a failed companionship, and they either attempt to kill themselves or did kill themselves. And that was very, 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 very sad. It's still painful to me, for some very close person. And having a relationship, even with a dog or a cat, would have changed the situation there.
right.
And
You're absolutely right.
I think this topic is extremely important. And the dog, we talk about dog. I think that one of the quality of the dog is a good listener.
Yeah,
And this,
you
de
can tell.
facto, the
Yeah,
dog is a good listener. You can tell the dog whatever you want, and this thing will listen to you like an angel. So if you have some confidence to do it to a dog. He will not repeat it to anybody. So your privacy is protected. And if you can establish a relationship in that at that level, I think it will be a strong factor to help you.
right, right.
So that's
So,
my 2 cents about what I face in my life, knowing people, realizing people kill themselves.
right.
There was at least 2 cases where they were relatively close to me, not like a, I would say this at a third degree. There was like family, friend, and then at the third degree you have colleague or acquaintance. They were at that level. And some one of them, I know her for maybe 10 years, and out of the blue she killed herself like that. She hang herself in her
Yeah.
living room, and it's extremely, extremely sad.
Well, the truth is now, is it really possible that a dog can influence and lessen? the strength of these factors, since owners often indicate that their pets provide them with companionship in the form of creature of love.
Yep.
Now, what having a dog could increase a person's sense of belongingness and thereby reduce the desire for suicide.
Hmm.
So, taking care of a pet can also affect one's perception of being a burden, since owners often feel responsibility and a sense of purpose in caring for their pets. They don't want to leave their pets. By the
Hmm.
way, that's what Mickey Rourke said. He said that he looked at in his dog's eyes when he was contemplating it. He went into the closet and he was going to kill himself. And he looked at his dog's eyes and he realized that the dog was telling him, "You're going to leave me alone.
Hmm.
I'm
You're
gonna
going to
poop on
leave
your
me."
carpet if you leave.
Yeah, you're gonna leave me alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So anyway, the sense of responsibility and purpose can alleviate feelings of being a burden and therefore serve as a buffer against
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts. So
It give.
that
Yeah.
what?
I was about to say it's give a sense of purpose.
Right, right, yeah. I think that where we're going with this, folks, is there are some things that you can do. And if you see somebody or you have a friend that has a dog and they're still down and out, maybe they're just not connected. And Roman has some triggers that you can look for in a person. If they have a dog, maybe that dog can start to interact. They can go out, they can do things together. Because
Hmm.
I know for certain that if you are depressed and you are not acknowledging your dog will not come near you. But if you're connected, that dog will be there to want to comfort you and do whatever they can to support you.
Hmm.
So it's your choice. You've got a dog that has a gift. Take advantage of it. Accept that gift. It's a God-given gift for sure. So, Roman, what would you say are some of the triggers that a dog can do or a person can identify with when they're looking at someone that's in a trauma state? I know indifference, antisocial, things like that are some, but I recently ran across somebody that I thought, that person, I know they came from a domestic violence background. Their dog was affected as well as them, and they reacted to me like, oh, life is okay. It's I'm not really happy with it, and the dog was just really blah, down and out. So I was talking to her about, gee, what have you been doing with your dog? Well, we used to take walks. We used to do this. We're just not doing it anymore. We're just, so there's an isolation that occurs and things. So what are some of the signs that you've seen, Roman?
Well, the first thing that you see is that the dog care quality is low. The dog is not groomed. The dog is not walked. Okay. Um, and one thing veterinarians can see, the dog has never been to the vet for a year or two. And one other thing that we see very often, um, and I'm just speaking from my personal experience, is we can call him couch potato, and he's literally not getting up the couch. Um, my trigger would be if I see a dog eliminating in the house, or multiple dogs eliminating in the house. That's already an alarm. Then I want to know, why is this happening? Because people just too depressed to open the gate and take the dogs out, and then the dog pees, and then they're too depressed to clean up. It becomes like a vicious circle. I do have some people that I work with, um, like not colleagues but referrals, that if I have a situation where I suspect something like that, I give them a phone number to kind of talk about it in conjunction. Usually, my first round will be doing some energy work with those people that can give them a little bit of a boost, get them kind of like a quick start, like a jump start, for them to see hope in their pain and in their suffering, because many people are have chronic diseases and are chronic ill. It's not just people who are lazy or, you know, alcoholic or in drugs who commit suicide. People who are suffering from pain and they don't. It always gets worse and worse, right? And it says,
Right, right.
if I'm in pain right now, what's going to happen in a month from now, or 2 months from now, or 10 months from now? Um, and that can kind of cause a problem. And then location is a big thing. Okay, where people are, there is no way to go outside. To go to the next town, you need to drive an hour. So these are things that I noticed that are very complicated. But most of the people that I work with that had this potential, most of them had pain issues or emotional issues, and there were medication, depression, usually. And I'm not no way, equipped to kind of give any guidance on that. So if I
Right.
suspect something, I just make sure they connect with somebody who knows his work, because you can say
Okay.
a word, kind of the whole thing falls apart.
Well, we started talking about veterinarians and techs and people that work in the animal field. You hear it all the time. I'm sure you do all the time, Roman, that they come together and the first thing is, oh my God, they're going to euthanize this dog. This dog is healthy. They're euthanizing for space. How can they do that? Everybody gets into a ramble, and the upset in your body that goes on lasts far beyond that moment. It carries on to the next day, almost to an obsession. Well, we got to make certain that so and so wasn't euthanized. And then if they are, like you pointed out, then it's a whole psychological imbalance and physical imbalance that occurs in the body. And if that continues to keep happening, you kind of wonder, well, why would a veterinarian commit suicide? Well, they're confronted with that every single day. They have to put dogs down. They have to deal with the emotions of the owners, the emotions of the caregivers, and it's a very um, what's the word I want to say? A very emotional type of a profession to be in. And if you are one that does take care of animals, then you know yourself that there's not a lot of empathy for dogs when it comes to rescuing, unless you are a person that is willing to take the risk and not worry about the financial side of it, and you'll step forward and take care of an animal. Otherwise, you'll take a picture, you'll take a video, but you won't step up and take care of the animal. The true rescuers, the true animal lovers, the ones that really care and they don't give a damn about the money or having to care for the animal afterwards, they're the ones that I want to say kudos to you. But if you are experiencing any kind of depression of any kind, really, we want to please consider getting some help and also looking at your dog as one that can help you through this terrible time.
But we have to see that veterinarians are not only exposed to these kind of situations with dogs. I mean, becoming a veterinarian, you can calculate about $250,000 of expenses before you even open a shop or a veterinary clinic. And then you have to buy equipment, and then you have to hire people. So you have a lot of money going on, and exposure is very high to financial problems.
Hmm.
And we don't see that in town because the veterinarian has a plethora of people coming to the vet's office and you have waiting time to go there. But if you go rural, well, these people need a veterinarian. There are farms and there are animals there, but they don't have that money coming in that a regular vet will have downtown. And that's an additional burden. So the crisis of the veterinarians is more complex, but very important, because we are directly affected by it. If veterinarians are afraid to become veterinarians and we are running out of veterinarians, I have a 3-month waiting list to go to the vet, and I have a 24 hours waiting list to go to an emergency vet.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a situation that everyone is having a problem with because there's just not enough veterinarians. I shouldn't say that there are not enough affordable veterinarians because the dread is, oh my God, my dog is sick. I've got to take him to the vet. Oh, that's going to cost me $500 just walking in the door.
Right.
So
And
there's
these
an
people need to make
association of.
money. It costs a lot.
I understand that. I
Okay.
understand. but there isn't an easy solution. Some say that it's low cost, affordable, or no cost spay neuter. That'll do it, but there still is that cost of if your dog gets sick, it needs an operation, $10,000 easy, and you have to be able to make that decision. So you know, why did I bring that up? I don't know. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this. We had Lon on the show a couple of times, and Gaetan, I don't recall us ever talking about suicide problems with veterans or service dogs providing services to people. And Roman, you had mentioned at one time that there's also autistic adults that have suicidal
Children,
tendencies as well,
children
and
and adults. I
children.
mean, their
Yeah.
children are very young, and they start, understanding things. They're a risk too.
Okay. Yeah. That says a good distinction can't be available plus affordable too often. Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. For those of you that don't know, we're not broadcasting on Facebook. They've had some glitches, but we will have the replay available. I'm going to put a link to this veterans. But Gaetan, do you remember um,
Lon.
Lon talking about people that have some of the vets that got involved with his program? For those of you that don't know, Lon Hodge has a program called Operation
But
Fetch,
yeah.
and he helps get dogs that are trained to help vets in need, and
Yes.
particularly homeless vets.
Yes.
So I would imagine that a homeless vet is one that has already lost all
Yes.
hope, all
Hmm.
hope, all hope. They come back from the country fighting for our country. They now don't have a home. They don't have a family. They've got
Hmm.
mental problems. And giving them a dog, I guess the way that they look at it now is that that's their true companion. So isn't
Yeah.
that a beautiful thing? So you
Right.
want to comment on that? Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the sad statistic about soldier coming back home with PTSD, and a number of them committing suicide. And the fetch approach is to help them. I mean, uh, you went to war, you're a hero, you give your life, you get injured, you come back with PTSD, and then you end up homeless. And that could be I don't know. Imagine that everything is taking care of you for you. You're giving your life for your country. You arrive home and you're homeless. This is something I cannot create the equation between the two. I don't understand what system will make would be such that a soldier coming back from war arrive home and then not only has a psychological and physical problem, but it's homeless on top of that. And it's sad to say, but a number of soldiers killed themselves because of the combined situation there. And Lon helped veteran in a very, very critical situation. He rescued them from
Right.
homelessness.
Right.
He went to Denver, or one place I remember is Denver. There's a river, and on the embankment of the river, there's a village of tent, and many of the homeless there are soldier who came back from war, no, no family, no place to live, homeless. And Lon do a outstanding work there to reach out and provide help to the soldier. The dog aspect is there also to help out, but the volume of a case is such that to provide a dog to everybody, it's not possible. But definitively, the soldier with a dog will have one reason to stay alive. He will get one reason to stay alive. He will say, one living being is caring for me, or care
Right.
about me. And sometimes it's only the dog.
Oh, Gaetan, you know what? I was like an aha moment. I'm thinking, I bet in a lot of cases, people who become homeless get a dog because it's another being that they can be with so they don't feel hopeless.
Right.
It's difficult to live on the streets after you see it all the time, what's happening in LA. All of these people, but all of them seem to have dogs. I don't
A
see a
lot,
lot of
yeah,
cats with the homeless, but I see a lot of dogs with the homeless. So I bet that's a level of helping them to remain sane. What do you think?
absolutely, absolutely. It's a reason. In French, the expression is a raison d'être. So in English, I don't know the translation there. It's a reason to be. It's a
Yeah,
reason. It's a motivation. You
yeah,
have a purpose. You have something. You have look at this relationship there.
yeah,
The woman is not really on high energy, and the dog is there. Say, hey, I'm here.
yeah,
Talk to me. And maybe just because of that dog, the woman didn't commit suicide. I don't say she want to commit suicide, but the presence of the dog there is definitively an helping
looking and
factor.
saying, "Don't do it." Yeah, and look at
I'm
that.
here.
Yeah,
I'm here. I care. So
yeah. And then
that's
of course
a
the
that's a
dog.
very tragic situation.
Yeah, it is. So Roman,
We don't have the happiest topic today, but it's a good topic to address
it it is. It is.
We do scratch
the
things
surface.
because we need to talk about things.
We do.
Yeah.
We
The
really do.
reality is not just happy puppies wagging tail. We have
Yeah.
Hmm.
also difficult situations where we need the dogs as well.
Wait a second. Beth just wrote something here. She said they spend months on getting recruits ready to be a soldier and very little on getting them ready to be a veteran. Same for dogs. We get them ready to leave the breeder, shelter, foster home, but that's too often where the support has to cease as a result of limited means of animal heroes. Very good point, Beth.
Hmm.
Very good
Hmm.
point. Yeah. So here we are with a subject that not too many people want to address, but I agree with you, Roman. We need to address it, and we hope that somehow, some way, if you feel that there's anything that you want us to cover in this that you were able to obtain some value from, we would really like to know. And please be with us. I just want to let you know that today's show, I did put it in, was sponsored by our sponsor. Nope, that's not it. Our sponsor today is ION, Intelligence of Nature, the Gut Health. I did put a link in the actual description as well as this is for the Pets Now. If you don't know anything about this product, it will help your dog if they're older, if they've got distress problems. They do have it for humans as well too, and I urge you to try it before you go to the vet. It's a lot less expensive and it really will help. And please check out what the ingredients are. So, what do you think now, you guys, for today? You want to give your last thoughts?
First of all, talking about guts, there's a correlation between guts,
And nuts. No.
okay, um, and suicide,
Oh, okay.
okay, because everything goes through the belly. So people who don't eat healthy are more likely to be depressed than people who eat healthy.
It's true.
Okay. Now, we care for dogs. That's a good thing. We see already improving results. Giving a dog a healthy guts, support will improve the dog's behavior right off the bat. The dog will
Hmm.
be more happy. The dog will be more comfortable. The dog will absorb more nutrients. He will be looking healthier. And then you're gonna get jealous about your dog. You see this nice shiny coat, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Really?
right.
I just showered yesterday." And
Yeah.
then you're like, "Oh, my guts! I had a
Hmm.
guts feeling, right?"
That's a very good point because it
And
can
so,
bring depression and
exactly.
anxiety and
So
everything
taking care of
else.
your own guts and your own nutritional intake and get rid of all those highly processed foods
Yeah.
will shoot your relationship and your emotional power. And then your dog is like, "Holy bark, are we going for a walk?" And you're like, "Yeah, because I can do it now." And up you
Yeah.
go.
That's right. That's right. Gaetan, last words.
There's no challenge greater than what we can face. Don't
That's
give
true.
up.
Yeah, that's true. And mine is, if you know someone that's hurting, do something about it. Do something about it. Share it, talk to them, let them know that you see that they're hurting. Don't just ignore it. Don't just walk
Mhm,
away.
mhm.
Everyone needs someone. We are all connected.
It's a taboo sometimes that we don't want to touch it. We don't know how to address that.
That's right.
Like
We
when we
don't.
talk, like, he's depressed. Yeah, he's gonna get out of there. Somebody will love him. You know.
Yeah,
Or they ignore it.
Thank you for touching
Or they
it.
ignore it.
That
yeah.
subject takes a
Okay.
lot.
Okay. Goodbye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Be well.